And now Gukesh is actually the reigning current pole champion, is with the white pieces, and he's playing against another prodigy who is Nordirbek Abdusattorov. And you have to understand that there is not bad blood, I would say. I mean, both players are very much respectful to each other. But then you have to understand one thing, that Nordirbek has been crushing Gukesh for he, I think, drew his game against Gukesh in rapid section, but in blitz section he absolutely crushed in day one, and this is day two, and definitely Gukesh is looking for a cold revenge here. And Gukesh for that starts with c4. He goes for the English. We have e5, knight to c3, knight to c6, g3, and you're gonna love this play because it's reverse Sicilian. It's like also English Sicilian, but you just names are not that much of importance as long as you know the lines. Here, bishop to g2, bishop g7, mostly see a3, d6, and now just go for knight g to e2. You play h5, h3, and now h4. H4 is just a very aggressive try here by Nodirbek, but he likes to play like that. So here just f5. I mean, immediately going for it as well. I mean, not even calculating. It could be prep, but again, I think he would know these lines by heart. But here after g captures, bishop captures, just d3 by Gukesh, and it looks like Gukesh's pieces are a little bit passive because I mean, look at these pieces, and but then again, he'll have the massive center, so slowly but surely his position will improve. Knight to f6, but just knight to d5, knight to e6, bishop to e6, but just knight e to c3. So now you want to trade, you can trade, but I'll get the massive center. Queen to d7, b4. Now this b4 is a very beautiful move. I mean, you want to actually go for a central thrust, but there doesn't exist a central thrust right now, otherwise you lose, because you have to understand, you don't castle kingside here with this open structure. You are not going to castle queenside either, but most likely if you open up the king, you have to understand your king is still in the center, and that's not a principled idea. So not something you want to do. But here b4 works because castles, bishop to b2. Castles was a very brave move by Nodirbek, because you have to understand this bishop is very strong. I have the center, this file is absolutely open. There could be a very nice attack coming soon. And knight to e7, we have knight captures, rook captures, and after knight to e4 attacking the rook, this is absolutely the best move in this position. We have rook to f5, bishop to f3. Amazing move, remaneuvering the bishop actually to go for this and trying to go for here. It's absolutely amazing. a5, but now just comes this b5, not giving even a single space to all of these things. And if you push here, just knight comes in, and you lose a strong bishop. I have a strong bishop, and with this fiend kettled, with this rook file, with the queen getting into the game, position is absolutely mine if you go for moves like that. So here bishop to h6 by Nodirbek, bishop to h6. This reminds me of the same move that he played against what I forgot his name. Oh, sorry, Maxime played against Gukesh, where he went for this, but his position absolutely crumbled. And I think this is the same idea, because in this position here, bishop to g4 was played, absolutely best move. Rook to f7 and rook to g1. Amazing move by Gukesh, because you want to get that king. You want to attack that king. I mean, the castling here was a brave decision, but you have to understand that this is a bit too brave. King to h7, and the best move in this position. Again, I told you just a few more moves ago that you should not open the central space, because your king is still in the center. But now I'm going to say the exactly opposite, because now there are some chances if you open up the center. So here after e captures, queen captures, now you can see that you're controlling the entire diagonal, man. And this is absolutely amazing, and there is no actual way to do anything about this in this position. If you go for bishop captures here to try and trade some pieces so that your position would be good, just rook captures. And here after rook a to f8, rook a to f8 is a complete blunder, by the way, simply because of the fact that you have this very nice knight check. King goes back, and here just going for this king to g8, and now you're just getting checkmated. So there is no point about this. But if you don't go for rook a f8, let's say you play a move like knight to f5 attacking the queen, then you have even amazing moves like knight to f6, and now you have to sacrifice the exchange. And now there is, I mean, not much. Yes, I understand this rook is a bit passive, but so is that rook. So I mean, but you can get it with some tempos maybe in the position, and this not so much. But then again, you could even castle in this position, and maybe you can get the rook in faster as well, and your king is just very weak. So position is absolutely winning for white, and definitely that would have been the right choice. But here Gukesh went for queen to e2, and this is what I've seen, like every time Gukesh has faced Nodirbek, his position has been absolutely amazing. Positionally he does very well right from the opening, but after a while in the middle game, where he's supposed to go a little aggressive and little maybe out of the rules that is supposed to be, you have to like understand the position and play a little bit opposite to the rules that you've started, then he doesn't go for it, and Nodirbek absolutely goes all aggressive. And that's what happens, because here's just knight to f5, knight is jumping here. You have to understand, you cannot castle. Why knight is jumping here with the pawn, I'll tell you. a4, but now just rook a to f8, queenside castle, and now the knight is jumping here because now you cannot capture. It comes with an attack on the queen. There are also ideas of some check if you go for here. Never ever make this mistake. Never ever make this mistake because that fork would be absolutely insane and really, really heartbreaking. Bishop captures on d4 was played because you don't want to allow that knight to remain there. So e captures, king to b2, and now just d5. King to b2 was not that much good of a move. Here you could have gone for with the queen because you can understand that this is coming and it's very much difficult to be able to hold this. So here we have c captures now. C captures is the only move. If you allow captures, then the game is completely over. Queen captures, and now there are a lot of mating ideas. So here you have to trade. Bishop captures was played by Gukesh. Queen captures, but now comes this rook to g4. A very nice rook lift. Should have come a few moves. When the attack was actually happening, as I told you with that line, this was a very, very amazing move in that line. But here queen to e7 and the same idea exists. I mean, what do you stop? How do you stop the infiltration? Here just king to a2, not letting the infiltration come with the check. And against anytime you come here, then you have queen to c2, and just that defends the a4 pawn currently. But again, there are very, very insane lines. And in this position, mostly why this knight is there on e4, you must be asking. This knight is an absolute beast on e4. I mean, if you look at it, there is no current piece without actually sacrificing the exchange that you can get rid of with the knight. I know black's position is better, but the amount of squares it's controlling and defending as well, attacking and defending both, this is just a very, very fine beast that you want to have in the position. I mean, this knight is amazing, and that's what you're going to realize because here d captures on e3, f captures, rook to f3, but now comes this queen to c2. I mean, you have to defend, otherwise there are some checks and you could be losing. Bishop captures on e3, just grabbing a complete free pawn. You have to do that. There is no way to defend that pawn. That's why this move was played. And but you have to be careful about this as well, because I would be happy to actually give up one of the rooks to be able to get the queen out. But then again, let's see if that happens or not, because here in this position, just rook to e1 was played. I mean, if you play now, then just this comes. So here just queen to f7, queen to f7, but king moves, and now just going for queen to e7, king moves, rook 8 to f5. But in this position, a very, very beautiful move by Gukesh. Gukesh goes for, because this line, whenever you have a queen against a king on the same back rank, you know what happens. So you have to get the queen out of there. So queen to c4, a very natural move. Gukesh's position is absolutely losing, but again, Nordirbek, with 41 seconds on the clock, he has to find the right idea of moves. And the right move would have been rook captures on h3, grabbing a pawn. That was the right move. But how much time that you have to think in order to understand that grabbing a pawn in this position and making this h pawn to a pass pawn is actually the winning idea. Because here after rook to e2, a very nice defensive resource that you have, the best move in this position is not doing something, it's actually not doing anything. You play king to h6, because anytime this knight jumped, there was with an attack towards the king. So that's what you had to understand in this position. And king moves, and now that doesn't exist anymore. So you can move the pieces around, you can move the rook around, and after reading everything, your endgame would be completely winning. King to b3 here, because understand that if any time that comes in the future, your rook would not that wouldn't come with the tempo. So you have to understand that as well. But now this g5, and those pass pawns are pushing, and there is no counterplay that you have in this position, and I think that was the idea. But it's completely winning for black, and that's what he had to find. But with 41 seconds on the clock, he could not find it. He played queen to f7, and it gave Gukesh a lot of hope, because now the position is absolutely a draw. But that's what happens when you're completely winning. You don't find the best move, your position turns to draw, and then mostly it turns to a loss, because then in order to defend, you have to find the perfect move. But now psychologically you are winning, you try to find the winning move instead of a drawing move, and you lose the game. That's what happens. But here Gukesh is an absolute beast when it comes to finding the right ideas, and he goes for a very nice line. He goes for rook captures on h4. But there was an even better line. Here just queen captures, rook captures, and beautiful rook sacrifice with the rook captures on e3. And here after rook captures, you just go for here, this, and sorry, not there, obviously not there. Here this, and just going for this rook captures, and this is a draw, because after rook captures, you're gonna go after those pawns, and most likely rook is gonna have to fall back. And with these two opposing pawns, I mean, white is down one pawn, but it's still a draw. You cannot push those pawns in the right way that you want them to. So that would have been the idea. But Gukesh instead went for rook caps on h4, and boy, he'll be glad that he went for this rook caps on h4, because now king to g7, and now queen captures on f7, rook captures, and now just going for this rook to e2. This is a very nice defensive resource that white has. bishop to f4 now, but now just comes this knight to c5, and how are you defending that pawn? I mean, there is no way. You could push it, definitely you could push it, but then this check comes, and there is ideas of actually picking this up. And I told you that knight is extremely strong in the center. Here bishop to d6 was played, but just pawn captures, and now it's just over. We have a bishop to b4. Gukesh's position absolutely better. He could be crushing here Nodirbek, but he has to do it right. Rook knight to d8, a perfect move attacking the rook. Rook to d7, but now comes this beautiful knight to e6 check, king to f6, and now d4. Brilliant move. Rook cannot join in. Rook cannot capture the pawn. Knight is defending it. Here you're covering the entire space with these rooks. King is getting constricted, and that's what you have to do when you're in a time scramble. Here rook to d5 was played by Nodirbek, but it just doesn't work. Knight taps on c6 and c7, and now you have a pass pawn. Not only that, that comes with an attack on the rook. Rook to d7, but knight to e8 check. And in this position, in time scramble, Gukesh here Nodirbek was supposed to go king to g5 to be able to attack the rook, and then when the rook would have moved, or if you play a move like that, then only something would have come. But then a few checks can be dropped in the position and he would have been fine. But he went king to f5, and now do you see the problem? Because here it is, unfortunately for Nodirbek, this is mate in one, and Gukesh finds it. He goes for rook to e5, and this is checkmate, and Gukesh got his cold revenge, checkmating Nordirbek's king in the middle of the board. And that's a spectacular play by Gukesh. And Gukesh, after winning this game, I think he is 2.5 out of 3. That's a spectacular start to a blitz game in last day of the tournament. That's absolutely amazing. Hopefully he continues the streak, and let's see what happens in the further games. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with games like these, so stay tuned to the channel, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you all.